So I got an article here. Accounting becomes gateway to entrepreneurship, and it's an article reporting that 54% of the population that they interviewed or surveyed say they have career ambitions to be entrepreneurs. Okay, so this is 54% of accountants that are currently working in a firm.
Wow, that's really high.
Yeah, and 78% of Gen Z respondents say that they have career ambitions to be entrepreneurs. And this is a survey of 10,000 folks. I mean, that's a pretty good statistical sample, I would imagine, if I had taken statistics and paid attention during college. But I think I mean, you and I, we talk most of our conversations are aimed at folks that have been in business for a while and curing some of the issues that they're experiencing or problems they're having or ways to do things better. And rarely do we really speak to those who are considering it and sharing maybe some lessons that you and I have seen or experienced or speak to that they can cure much earlier in their practice's lifespan than some of the folks that we work with now. You know, I've got a guy that I work with now that I coach who's in the Southeast, and he's at a firm. He's, you know, maybe days or weeks or months away from leaving to start his own thing, and he wants to niche really, really narrow. Like it is. I'd never even heard of the niche, and I won't share it here just to not spoil confidentiality. But let's just say it's witch doctors or something like that. Okay.
Chiropractors.
And chiropractors. Yeah, let's just go with chiropractors. He's targeting chiropractors, and that's the niche he wants to form. And now from our lessons, like we're excited about that, right? Like this guy's niching, and that's awesome. And you should absolutely pour all your energy into the niche because it'll give you pricing power. It'll allow you to market effectively. It'll allow you to be seen as an expert, which means you can charge more, which means you can create, you know, personal packages for which chiropractors. You can do all this great stuff, right? But you know, we have to also remember that he's just starting. And you know, if he's going to be successful in building the niche to serve these chiropractors, he's going to probably have to take some stuff early on in his practice's life that he'll ultimately have to get rid of and want to get rid of. But he has to get to that point. I learned this too. Like when I started the CPA coach, you know, my target niche was public accountants, whether they're big or small or somewhere in between. But my book of business when I first started didn't look like the CPA coach book of business. It looked like whatever I could get. Anyone with a pulse and a checkbook is the kind of work I was doing then. And it's taken me, you know, whatever, 9-10 years to get to the point now where my book looks like it should for someone who niches in public accountants. So to start, one of the lessons, be hungry. Don't be too particular. Don't worry too much about taking on something that you know you're going to fire someday. The point is getting to the point where you can have enough clients and the right kind of clients to get rid of the work you're probably taking today. And so in order to stay in business, you need clients and get them and just know in the back of your head that, you know, they'll likely be on the cutting block someday.
Niching is a marketing message, and he can still do that and should do that. But you have to say yes, unfortunately, in this small window of your entrepreneurial accounting path, you have to say yes to a lot just to build up that revenue so that you can survive. And that kind of sucks, but that's the nature of it.
Well, you got to be
if
hungry.
You're aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to be hungry, and you got to be able to accept the fact that I'm going to take this client so that I can be in business a year from now and hopefully be serving more chiropractors.
Mm-hmm.
And then a year from then, hopefully still be in business to be doing more work with chiropractors. If I had only chosen to work with public accountants from day one, I wouldn't be here today. I would have had to go back into industry and practice, and I'd be signing audit reports and filling out tax returns right now. But because I was hungry, I was taking anything I could get. My pricing was lower then, but it wasn't disrespectful to my trade. It's definitely grown because, you know, last we've learned my ability to niche has allowed me to create pricing power that, you know, others can't compete with. People take me and pay my higher rates because I have the depth and experience and expertise in their field, which puts me in an advantage of a bunch of other coaches who say they can work with anybody, and it doesn't matter what industry you work in, who all need our help, by the way, in learning how to niche so they can create this pricing power. And the same thing goes with the chiropractors. Like you're going to have to start at a price that keeps you in business, keeps you fed, keeps your family in close, and slowly, you know, start to bring in more chiropractors, still target your marketing at them, still spend your time trying to build them, but don't be afraid to be hungry when you start out.
There is a way to accelerate that.
Let's hear it.
Let's imagine this gentleman is 3 or 4 months out from leaving his firm. There's no reason he can't start building an audience right now starting a Facebook group directed at chiropractors, reaching out to chiropractor coaches or bookkeeping firms that may, depending on what service he's in, reaching out to complementary services that serve that and start building that audience even before you have something to sell.
Yeah. Guess what? My client is going to go speak here in a couple months. It's going to be at the chiropractors convention in Florida, and he's also reaching out within his community to other chiropractors to talk to them, get to know them, network with them. Not necessarily trying to transact with them, but building that relationship, which could lead to the business that he's trying to get. So I'd love that you bring that up, because there are things to do still that are available for you to build that niche before you start, that he's doing and executing on.
And
Another
it'll come
thing.
across, oh, sorry,
Go ahead.
real quick on that point. It'll come across more authentic too if he's not even selling anything at that point. He's
Mm-hmm.
just building relationships.
And so he's investing, right? They're like, wow, this guy's investing in chiropractors. That's awesome. We don't have any of those. Like my current practitioner, he does everything. Like he has no qualms about taking any work, and he'll take anything that moves and has something to report on. So I love the fact that, you're focused on, I've heard that. You've probably heard that too. But I've heard that a number of times when folks are like, wow, that's really cool that you're focused and work only with public accountants. So I'm like, yeah, damn straight, it's cool. And that's why it's this much. So pay it.
That's right.
Another thing that he's also, this individual, and I think another lesson, is on pricing. So one of the things that's happening with a lot of the folks we speak to is they're having to shift from what they currently do to a different pricing model. The reason being is they can charge for value. Reason being that things are going to get more efficient and effective, and so the hours are going to go down, which means the revenue would, if you were billing by the hour. It creates a stronger relationship with your clients when they're thinking about value rather than your time, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the things that we're telling our audience today. But when you start out, and this is the question I posed to you, when you start, first client you get, should you start with value-based, or should you start with something that you think they're a little bit more used to, and an hourly or a fixed fee?
There's an argument for both. So the starting with an hourly or lower price would be penetration pricing, where their ultimate goal is to gain market share through lower pricing. I think with accounting, it's such a short window where you have to be hungry, and those clients will eventually start rolling in so fast that I think you're shooting yourself in the foot by eventually having to change your pricing model on those clients. I think that's a tougher sell than just having a great offer right off the bat and knowing what your value is and what you're bringing to the client and the outcomes that you're bringing. I think it's a lot easier to just sell that now than it is to change that later.
I agree. And I have another quick story about a client. So she was working on a client, and the work that she was doing was hourly. And it was just, it's just some stuff that she normally would charge hourly for. Well, a project came up with the client that had a ton of value in it for her client. And like, we're talking like a kind of like a transaction, like a sale. And the client went to my client and said, hey, is this something you can do? And she was like, yeah, I can do it. And she's like, so, okay, so how many hours do you think it will take? Because she's been billing her hourly. And she was like, oh shit, I'm stuck in this hourly thing. And she didn't have the conversation to say, actually, I bill that work based on value, not time. But we're talking like a delta between what she will charge and what she could have charged. That's like 5, if not 6 figures.
Right.
Like,
wow.
It's a big deal. But she got stuck because the client was used to, this is how I bill. And they probably wouldn't have gone with her if she had said, well, actually that one's, 50 grand. And so she was stuck there. So I think you're right. And I would throw in kind of a hybrid, which is, do whatever you need to do to get these clients so you can stay in business. And if the only thing that they speak is hourly, it's going to decrease your chance of getting them because they're just not familiar with it. But have in your mind, where this is going, what you want this to be, so that you can start trying on those different models with newer clients. And sometimes you may start a client off at hourly and then propose to them, like, we're going to start this hourly. And then after, 3 or 6 months of working together, we're going to shift to this other model because I've learned about you. I've cleaned things up. I've gotten things figured out. And rather than this be an hourly thing, it's going to be a fixed fee of X dollars a month. So just have a plan, whichever way you go, whether it's a fixed or a value-based. So that way you are making a transition into what you want to end up being rather than stuck with what you decided.
Yep, absolutely. There is a point in time where you don't have any pricing power, and that's when you're brand new. So you can't really be picky unless you have created all this pent up demand prior to launching and you have built-in pricing power that way. But generally people that start their own firms have none of that. So you kind of have to ease off the high prices a little bit.
That, and it also is an opportunity though to say, hey, what chiropractors in my community, I want to give you, services at a pretty discounted price because I want to get some experience working with you that I can then leverage to get more versions of you. And so for the first year, I'm only going to do it for this much. And then the second year, we'll get back to this much. But then that way you can say, well, I work with like 15 chiropractors right now, or you can have testimonials from chiropractors on your website that really boosts your brand and pricing power so that you do get to that price you're wanting.
Yeah, that's a great point. That tactic is called founder pricing, where you can offer special discounted price for a year or two.
All right, that's all I got.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
Yep. Cheers.